Okay. All right. Very quickly to the second slide, and then we move from there. They've talked about my profile, so I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm just going to move right into it. Let's go to the table of contents so that I'll tell you what we're discussing today. There are 5 things that we're discussing, which is in line with what the mandate of this conversation is. Understanding the impact of inflation crisis on businesses, strategies to turn economic challenges into opportunities, how to leverage technology for growth, insight into resilience and innovation entrepreneurship, and then practical tips for sustaining and growing your business during crisis. Now that's cliche. I don't like those types of introductions. They're always like classroom stuff, but please follow me very closely. I'm looking at I have 2 screens or 3 actually. So if you see me looking in a different direction, that's my screen. Ignorance is one of your greatest enemies as an entrepreneur. And I think that's something I need to state, and you'll get to see my point as we proceed. All right. That is slide. You're not on the slide. Next slide, please. Slide 4. Thank you. That's the point. Slide 5. All right. You can let everything come out. Just release all the points, so I'll just talk about it. Now, the presentation is deliberately simple. You find out why. This webinar is timely and strategic. Kudos to the SIE Foundation. I think it was very brilliant for you to have chosen a topic like this, and it shows you're very in touch with reality. Number 3, education and learning sources are important. That's are, not is, are important. And lastly, the times are unprecedented but not new. This is not the worst time in history. And now, if this is not the worst time in history, then it's hope, because it means that people can have turned around and seen better days. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Why is macroeconomics important? Why does it matter? Inflation is the biggest conversation we've been having. That's slide 7, by the way. Now, here is what I like to state, and I'd like us to follow me very, very closely. All right, I believe now everything has settled. We're in the flow of the presentation. Forgive the back and forth and the hitches. Those will be edited out, but I need your full attention. All right, as we begin the presentation, please give me an audience of a potential lifetime. I've done entrepreneurship for 16 years, and I'll tell you something. Some of you may end up realizing that I was better off if I just found a fantastic job and I'd grown up the ranks. I would not like you to find that out when you're almost 60 or late 50s or mid 40s, and you realize that what your mom and pop thinking, and I say that respectfully, your mom and pop thinking did not get you very far. One of the things you have to understand as a business owner, if you're going to do business, is that there's what we call payday. In the earlier days of our career, when we used to write business plans, one of the things we always did right first, or one of the last things on a business plan outline, is what they call an exit plan. You won't believe that it is still about a few months ago. And that's the fun thing about my experience and people's experiences. Until a few months ago that I realized that when they tell you exit plan, like after almost 16 years, I knew what it meant, but I didn't see the thing come alive. That while you're writing your business plan, you also have to write an exit plan. An exit plan is your payday. If you worked for a career organization and you keep pension, which of course inflation is higher than I think the return at the moment. If I don't know, it depends. I mean, when your inflation is higher than your, of course, it's not a permanent situation, but you can imagine how much value is being eroded. It's higher than probably even your interest rates that are being set. I mean, not the ones being set, the ones that you get when you invest your money. So you're imagining where all these pension funds put in their money. Very, very interesting times. I mean, I don't have the answer. I'm just asking. But here's the point. Your destination is to exit. Now, if you had a career, you collect your pension or gratuity. And if you rose to become an executive director or any of these fancy positions, you would get a lot more for that. But in this case, as an entrepreneur, your goal is one day to either sell the business, to be acquired, to sell to the next management or the next generation, and so on and so forth. These are all the potential things that can happen. Please, let all the other sections of the slide come. There are about 4 points there. Where I'm going with all this explanation is that you need to listen to me and take some of the fundamental things I'll tell you, because I'm going to speak from my heart. And the reason why I want to talk like this is because we're in difficult times and I want us to be real. I told you that AI, Google can give you more insights about how to manage theoretical stuff than I would do. So I have to focus on what is non-theoretical to get, not only to get your attention, but to also really help you and deliver an impactful session. Okay, so what is inflation? Why is it important? Where is inflation today and where is it headed? Impact of inflation on businesses. Inflation is the rise in prices of goods and services. Now, the consistent rise in the prices of goods and services. Now, persistent. We all know the meaning now because prior to inflation would have not been a common term to us. But let me explain some fundamentals. Please follow me. I've started my lecture. Why is inflation a big deal? There are two indicators that you track. You know, macroeconomic reports are very complicated to the non-economists. And I don't know why economists have decided to keep it complicated. I am the one who, and I say that very humbly, that has decided to start simplifying it for ordinary people. So I've sat in board meetings, boardrooms of very senior executives, or or management teams. Let me say management teams, and I see them look confused when there's inflation. So I realized that they actually don't know, but nobody's bold enough to say, "I don't understand what you're saying." It's all over the place. But there are only three things that there are three things. Well, there are three things that I'm trying to say. How is the economy growing? What is inflation? And what are the drivers of these two? If unemployment is a function of economic growth, if the economy is growing, there's more demand, jobs are being created. Consumer, lending, or sorry, no, consumer purchase, that's retail sales, or which is a big indicator in America, is a function of how much disposable income people have, and people's disposable income is a function of sometimes interest rates, and those interest rates, I'm not directly connected, I'm just giving, are also sometimes a function of whether or not they're fighting inflation, and I can go on and on. So let me just simplify it for you because I need to do this in 1 minute so you follow. Inflation and economic growth rate. Economic growth rate is the growth of the GDP. Are the two indicators you hold on your left and your right, and then everything else revolving, or most of the things revolving around them, are factors that determine them. So when you are listening to the news or to a brilliant economist, he's trying to tell you the drivers. I believe you're following me, and if there's anything you might like, please feel free to interrupt. He's trying to tell you the drivers of those two things. Now, let me give you a classic example. My partner told me a story. He said his mom was a civil servant. Just before Obasanjo came, everybody was buying Tokunbo cars. The best they could afford, were some neatly, nicely packed Toyotas. Suddenly Obasanjo came, massive change in the macroeconomic, massive changes in the macroeconomy over time with his reforms and his policies, forgiveness of debt and all that. And guess what happened? Suddenly civil servants were earning much more. As they started earning much more, they could afford to buy new cars. They could buy Corollas now and so on. The banks took off, demand, everybody. So bankers started driving fancy brand new cars and so on and so forth. That is an indication of economic growth. The economy was growing, 6, 7, I think sometime, Jonathan, we got to, I think maybe 9 at some point or 8, but growth rates. Nigeria has not grown more than 2% or 1%. In fact, throughout Buhari's time, apart from downturns that we had, including the I'm looking for the word, forgive me. Essentially, there were downturns that led to I'll remember the word, forgive me. But bottom line is that growth drove activities and economic activities that drove employment. And I remember Nigeria was, now thinking about it because I was in university then, I thought Obasanjo was terrible. I was just complaining and it, but apparently, I don't know, but I miss Obasanjo. That's all I'll tell you. And I hope you edit one out of the recording, just to get the attention of our audience and to help them understand how the economy goes. I had siblings, some of you, I remember all your siblings, your cousins, your relations, or yourself. When you could afford to buy, could buy a brand new Corolla and pay over 4 years. Go try that now. Do you understand? I even actually did, but mine wasn't brand new. But where I'm going is, as a young guy, 3 years into his career, I kid you not. So imagine that's what you call it. Now imagine that was from a military regime and what scenarios. Now, Corolla, it is well. Do you understand? So I've given you a clear picture because most times people don't understand all these macroeconomic terms and they pretend like they do or they don't have the opportunity to ask. So I want to help you and I'm taking my time so that I leave you with some impact. I'm not here to impress you. I mean, don't worry, I want to impress Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Those are people I want to impress, not you, with all due respect. Do you understand? So it's important to know that I'm here to really achieve my objective, which is impact. Okay? So, and I'm not disrespect to you. I also want to impress you on a serious note, on a lighter note. So here's the point. What about inflation? Inflation is the direct reverse. It's simple. I had 100,000 naira last year. In fact, let's use the same example of Corolla. The money you used to buy Corolla at that my time, or even 2 years ago, you can't use it to buy Corolla again. Why? The money has lost its value. That is inflation. Inflation erodes value. And that's why it's being tracked. Now, there's a healthy inflationary rate that every country can maintain. Definitely single digits, definitely below 6%. I mean, for a developing country, your inflation should not go more than 7%. Do you know where our own is? It's over 30. In some instances, food is at hit 40. To be honest with you, I refuse to check because I don't know who has the, I mean, I think the June rates we can pull that out. But it's so crazy that I don't even want to look at it. So I refuse to put it on the slide. Are you following me? Because it will distract you if I explain the concepts to you. So government is fighting hard to bring it down. Fighting hard. You've seen all the policies that are going on. But while they're fighting it from the monetary side, okay, I'm starting to lose you now. What's monetary? Monetary is interest rates. Why are interest rates important? Interest rates are set by the central bank. When central bank sets the interest rate, and I need to explain this, please, SI Foundation, bear with me. There are a lot of entrepreneurs here, and I know the level of ignorance, and I know the level of ignorance. I know, I mean, do this for a living. So I'm doing this I want them to get it. When they get it, they can now use it further than beyond this session. Okay. And I hope I'm being helpful. You can just unmute and say it's helpful, it's fine, it's all right. Just encourage me so that I'm sure, because I'm like a lonely. I mean, I can't hear anybody. I'm assuming you're hearing me.
Sorry, maybe because it's a webinar, but it's helpful. I'm sure a whole lot of people are.
Exactly. I'm taking more time than I need to, but I know that people don't understand the macroeconomic report or info or presentations. So, and I need to explain. So I've explained to you that whole Obasanjo thing. Economy was growing. It was growing at 5, 6, 7%. Jonathan, I think, hit 9. Now it has. I can't remember. I can check. I don't think it ever hit 2%. I think Buhari was 1 point something, 2, 3, about 3. They predicted 3.2, 3.25 for this year. Okay, and I don't know how far with that. But here's the thing. When I close and I move to the slides, and I'm explaining everything here I'm saying is what I'm saying, why it's important, how it affects your business, and so on. Government uses interest rates to fight inflation. How and why? Interest rates are the benchmarks that are set, right, for banks to lend out money. So when government sets the rate, banks can add and lend. It's also the rates at which, obviously, they lend, they need to receive because people deposit. So all of that, fixed deposit and all of that. Now it's beginning to come together, I'm sure, for some people. So if the interest rate is, let's say, 25% or 23%, the banks have to now add their own margin and go ahead and, do what they have to do. If it's too high, nobody will borrow. And if nobody borrows, nobody can expand. And if nobody expands, you know the implication. Nobody will hire. Unemployment. If nobody hires, now, but why did they set the interest rate high? They set the interest rate high to mop up the money in the system. Why do you have to mop up the money? Because if money is too much money chasing fewer goods. So you want to raise that rate and make people, treasury bills or what have you. I'm sure you're seeing, money market rates and all of that. People are trying to put their money. It's bring the excess, and fix it so that we cool down the inflation. Or we fight it. But that's on the local side. On the global side, if it's high, like it was a year or 2 ago, the big boys, the countries outside, US, Europe, they now increase their own interest rates. When they increase their interest rates, portfolio investors in Nigeria or people that would have said, okay, let's go and put something in the stock exchange, they pull out. I go and put their money there. Their own economies are way safer. So everybody now withdraw. That's just one scenario. They just withdraw their money. When they withdraw their money to take it back, that's not all. Those interest rates now make it more expensive for us to borrow, or our interest payments become higher. So Nigeria borrowed money from the US. US has raised interest. That means we're supposed to pay back this amount. Now we're paying more because US has raised the interest rates. So the next time you watch news and they tell you interest rates have risen, you want to freak out because it will hit you here. That's when they say they sneeze, we catch a cold. Because we are paying attention to their own interest rates. So I gave a very brief summary. I hope I didn't confuse you. Maybe during Q&A, I'll find out. I have a more detailed presentation of that. You can check it out on Cryptas platform. And I also did a few ones for some gatherings. But here is that's to let you understand why inflation and business and growth rates, or how they impact the economy. Now, if all these are in disarray, businesses feel it. It hits the whole chain. Your suppliers feel it, you feel it, your customers feel it, and we just come to this paralyzed situation where nobody's buying, or people are delaying their buying because they want to wait for the rates to fall, or they don't have the money again to buy it, and so on. Or people are making new choices. So luxury goods not luxury goods. Luxury goods don't, most times they don't get impacted because it's for the rich, and the rich are rich. But in most cases, it is the people in the middle class and of course the lower class that feel it. Not people in the village. People in the village may not feel it because they all you care, they eat, they live their subsistence lives. So it's the two extremes that say it, villagers and the very rich. But me and you in the middle, we feel it. All right. I believe that was helpful, or I hope that was helpful. Let's move on, please. Now, let's begin. Thank you. We're going to be talking about the strategies to turn economic challenge to opportunity. Now, this is where I'll spend most of my time, even though I over-projected what I just finished presenting, but I hope it was helpful. Slide 9. So how do we deal with the matter? Let's get very practical, and I will begin. Cost management and efficiency. That's number 1. Turning economic challenges to opportunities for entrepreneurs. Now, I'm mixing my points with the next slide. There's a very thin line between, if you look at the outline, between content 3, 4, 5. But I will try and manage them and maneuver all scenarios so that we can appreciate what we're talking about. Now, I know there's a diverse group of entrepreneurs on this call. I also know that, I also imagine that there are people in tech, there are people in production, there are people in services, and so on and so forth. So I will push hard to cut across so that somebody leaves here with something. Cost management and efficiency. Optimize operational costs, run a lean operation. Let me share practical tips. As an entrepreneur, there are 2 or 3, well, most of us are here would be small, medium, I assume, maybe very few large. And if you're large, you can take it offline. But if you're small and medium, or micro, small and medium, there are 3 things that will measure, that will impact your costs, or that will reflect your cost. 3 major cost components. Number 1, staff salaries, if you have any. Number 2, raw materials. Number 3, or production costs, raw material or production costs. Raw material is usually the bulk of it, except you have a very interesting model. And then number 3 is technology, or what I call, for some people it will be technology, for some people it will be like banks. Technology is very high, but it could be technology or it could be logistics. So yes, you heard me. Essentially, anything that enables the sale and distribution of your product may also be expensive. For some, it may actually be power, right? So it is your enabler, technology, power, or logistics, your raw materials, and your labor costs, direct or indirect. I'm sure you got my point. I'm giving you the components. Now, when they say optimize operational costs, it means you have to check whether those operational costs are even valid. Now, prior to this economic situation, people could afford, I have a training officer. And with all due respect, I'm hitting on my own business, but I'm being sincere so that you listen. I have this guy, she's called customer experience. What do? They stand at the door and just open the door and make people feel good. The gateman will have to learn how to do that. Trust me at this point. I have this champagnes I serve people when they just enter, just to make them feel good. Mabino, that will have to change. I can go on and on and on. These are what we call optimize. Do I really need this thing at this point, or I chalk it out? I think that point is very explicit, but I gave very random examples to say that you will just suddenly realize you can do without a lot. Number 1. Number 2, the risk of overstaffing. one of the things you will deal with as an entrepreneur, and I'm going to share some of this wisdom, is that when you start, there's a high that will hit you. It's called a high. A high that will hit you where you will begin to think that what you need is more people. It's a very dangerous fall. You will just notice that you will just start hiring at spree. Oh, you have a friend, bring you have this. Meanwhile, you're not noticing that the productivity is not rising at the rate at which the cost you are investing is rising. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You were alone, you were making tiger nuts. You were making 50 bottles. No, 50 bottles, 100 bottles a day alone. No. You have 3 people now. You guys are doing 200 bottles. That looks like 100%, but I can bet you that's not proportional. If you alone were doing 100, why should 3 people do 300? Even 300 is not good enough. You know why? Because when you became 3, your job was not supposed to be packaging. So your job was supposed to move higher. Higher to what? Looking for machines that will work for you better. Looking for recipes that were more efficient. Looking for ways to conserve raw materials. You are now investing in the strategic thinking required to drive your cost lower and increase your productivity. The 2 people you hired are not supposed to come and be packaging bottles. This one is doing 100 bottles. Top of my head, I already know that will not be efficient. Instead, division of labor. You produce, I package. They will end up doing 300 bottles because they've cut the time. Yes, I'm telling you from experience. In most production processes, division of labor pays better. That's why in a factory, somebody's job may be bottles. Somebody's job may be cutting. It's faster that way than one tailor doing everything. I hope I'm communicating, and I trust I am. I'm trying to explain a danger with this cost management by giving a practical example. Lean operations, which is the next obvious point, is a function of the quality of people you pick. You're an entrepreneur on this. Those 2 people you hired, you can clear the 2 of them and pick one person. And I say that very respectfully. Forgive my choice of words. One person who will be at your level, probably even at your salary. Yes, you heard me. But will produce and be more efficient than those 2 people. I have summarized. For your raw materials, you may need to look at new suppliers. If there's nothing you can do sincerely, then you may need to change, explore without compromising on quality, changing the dynamics of what is involved. I give you a very random. I didn't want to give this example early, but I'll do it because of time. I was watching an Instagram video the other day, and I was shocked. I saw a lady manufacture. I saw a lady replace semo. I'm sure some of you have seen it. With cabbage. Take cabbage, grind it, and use it to create swallow. First and foremost, I felt that was genius. Number 1, cabbage is way healthier. That's you're literally eating a fruit, a vegetable, I beg your pardon, as semo. Even me, I'm like, oh my God, chai. If I can switch that, that's so great because cabbage has so many nutritional values. Semo is over-processed. Same for all the other ones. So fiber, everything is there. But that is hard. Now, what is the cost of cabbage? Cabbage, because they spoil. All of them they are produced. So imagine you going to meet all the bookies on the street and say, listen, if you see customer no come, this thing won't spoil, call me. I go buy them for half the price. You have the attention. Now, I'm just trying to tell you how I would think if my business, for instance, had to do with that. And I would introduce that to my customers and say, by the way, I know things are expensive, but I can give you another alternative, which is, now, don't follow the details, follow the principle. The ability to look at something, now that requires a lot of innovation, and I know that. But for me, I need you to see how far you have to push your thinking to solve that problem. I will come back to this cost management. Let's move on. Number 2, product and service diversification. That is generic. What does it mean? I make Zobo. And I'm sorry, I don't know why I don't want to think about. Okay, let me use professional services. Let me think of something, okay, I run a coaching business. Hey, this is easy. I run a coaching business. Primarily, my clients are people I serve, wanting executives or executives who have money, but I serve a community of people. I do trainings. Business has hit us. Now things have changed. How do I diversify? How do I products and service offerings? Well, I'll tell you. I mean, these are very random examples, but they're important. I would probably think about what other talents and capabilities I have, and I would explore lecturing. Yes, I would explore being a visiting lecturer, or as a way to, of course, diversify my income. But I would provide my service. I'll expand to other areas like, going to education, areas that I have strengths. So yes, I'm a coach, but I primarily train as an accountant, and I have fine financial advisory skills. So I can decide, you know what, I'll pick up. This is a second point. I'll take my skill sets and use it to provide accounting services, because I once worked in accounting and I understand it very well, for a few businesses in a way to manage my costs, so that and to manage my income, so that I don't feel the heat. Now, this is me being very practical and talking to a specific group. Let me take another example. Technology. We have a technology product, a solution, a software. What would I do? My software is already narrow. These are the only applications we already built it for this use case. And now we're being faced by this economy. What do we do? Well, I tell you what we can do. Guess what? We have 2-3 programmers in the office. What are we waiting for? Let's go and look for clients that have suffered, listen to me very carefully, that have suffered jackpot. Their tech department is struggling. We move in there, we negotiate, and we help them manage their technology department until things stabilize, until they hire the right people, because we have the capability. We have a software that is already built, excess capacity, but we have 3 developers, or we have access to develop. What are we, even if it's an individual, what are you waiting for? You go in there and you replace and you support them. Now, this is me trying very hard to push my thinking to give you as many scenarios as possible so that you get the point. Are we together? And I hope this is helpful. Number 3, local sourcing and import substitution. As generic as this will sound, listen, this is important. I sell plantain chips. Okay, no, plantain chips will not work because most of the products are already sourced locally. I import a particular ingredient or a particular chemical I import a particular chemical that I use in my production process. Now, things are high. What do I do? You know, one of the things I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of my ideas. I feel like you guys will think I'm from Mars. But the kind of problems we're facing, if you don't think like this, so some of you may not get the value now, is when you leave here that your head will switch on and like, okay. And like I'm literally trying to push you off a cliff so that you think. It really requires innovation. So I sell chemical, I have chemical inputs for my production process. Maybe I make soap or something. What do? I'll go to the biochemistry department of University of Lagos, or that of Ilorin, or that of Ibadan, or that of Ife. Who are you? And what would I do? Guys, you're doing biochemistry, but no, you know what? I have a broad problem for you. This local community, let's source it. I will turn your department into my R&D lab. I will pay everybody's I will pay everybody, you have everybody's attention. Can we substitute it? Can you try and give me something? Even if it's not the full thing, can you give me something that I can use to replace my foreign imports? Or can I begin to experiment with you to see whether my lower end products, the ones that the customers are not too sensitive, I can replace it so that at least I can make more margins. These are the ways you begin to think. Now, the reason why you have to cut down your costs and get more margins is because those margins add up. For all you care, the 4-5% that you may recover can be the difference between your ticket for the Olympics. You understand? Literally, 4-5% margin on the product compounded over a period of time, or added over a period of time, or multiplied over a period of time will give you that result. So 3 important points. I talked about cost management, product and service diversification, local sourcing important. But local sourcing important, and import substitution is looking for local source. Now, I know the country is not safe. That's why I said, I take that back. The country has some challenges in the rural areas where production is happening. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to now give you guys a very radical idea. We have to start farming in urban areas. I went to Osun State some months ago, and I was just driving around the place. I'm like, well, since town is safe, some people need to actually start considering coming out to come and farm in the main town, because the villages are too far. At least within town is safe. So, and there's land. So these are the kinds of recommendations that people have to explore. So it's not the excuse of, okay, yes, local governments that are 5-6 hours into the bush. Sorry, we can't go there. But within town, 30-40 minutes, let's see what we can do. All right. Next slide. Digital transformation. Access to finance and credit, or financing credit, and then lastly, strategic partnership collaborations. Let me highlight what we're talking about here. For digital transformation, how does somebody who sells cookies think about digital transformation? Well, I have a whole section dedicated to technology, so I will not waste too much time on this point, but I'll just keep it simple. Imagine some of you on this call, you input your records on paper. You're still on this call. Your accounting is on paper. I want to believe there aren't much, but there's a part of your production or process that is paper, or there is actually a computer, but the people you hired, because they're not very whatever sophisticated, you think it is better for them, to use paper. So they finish the paper and they send it. Somebody now types it. Waste of time. Meanwhile, they're graduates, or at least they're close to graduates, or they're hoping to go to school. You have to give them a computer and tell them to learn to put it in there. Even, I don't want to say this, but even some gorillas, I've seen them, they use them in those days as train assistants, something that help with train, like to, I've seen that video somewhere. So people can fill in, this is it. They want to go to university, so we are start. Now, the idea is it saves us time. Now, for some of you, it is not possible because the guy is a logistics guy. What do you do? Have you heard of some apps that you can scan? So when your logistics guys come, you just switch on the app, you scan, the picture becomes letters or words, and it's uploaded. That will cut the time of your front desk person by 2 hours every day. I'm just giving an example. You will just find out that, wait, there are apps that I could have used to just save all this paperwork. And at the end of the day, they have to. Now, what about people who traditionally have not sold online? I just want to believe that these are not things that are the kind of audience I'm expecting a sophisticated audience. So I'm trying my best to manage. I want to believe there's nobody who's not doing e-commerce who should be doing e-commerce. But peradventure, you're not. This is important for you. Digital payment system. That one is obviously easy. And it's straightforward. Why do you have digital payments? Because digital payments eliminate a lot of errors. And I don't expect at this point we're talking cash. So let me not even bother about that part. Number 5, access to financing credit. Now, typically, commercial banks, which will be difficult for you to get. Obviously, not microfinance banks, except you know what you're doing, and your business clearly gives you those margins. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself in trouble. So what you may need to do is be creative. So what do you mean? If you have the reputation, and this is important for an entrepreneur, if you have the reputation, you can actually walk up to some people and tell them that, okay, Stanbic IBTC is giving you 21%. I'll give you 30%. Please give me this, and I'll return the right period of time. Okay. The person has it. I'll give you. I trust you. You have the reputation. So, but that means you're informed. You know what the options are, and then you now give them better. But this is a very rare alternative, but these are options of financing. But the last one, which is quite important, is government programs like that. And I know people may think, government, I don't trust government. I don't believe all these things are scams. It's not necessary. Some people have actually gotten these things. But let me just say this, government is desperate now. And because government is desperate, most of the things they do now will likely work or will try to work. So I think it's a good time not to shun government, but to keep your eyes on the ground. There are grants. I know people that have collected grants. We've applied for a few. We didn't get, but we're trying to get. Grants are on the table. But the bigger part is that there are grants that can be cut out. Now, this is the one I need your attention. There are grants that can be produced from the quality of your service offerings and the expertise that you provide. Let me give you an example. Some of you guys here provide a service. There are all these non-profits or NGOs that are trying to do youth skill acquisition, whatever. Do you know you can carry your business and say, people are to don't worry, I will be the expert. Come and use me as a case study, or come and use my knowledge, my resources. Write me into the grants and pay me. So at the end of the day, you are regarded what they call a master's craftsman. You will be able to contribute, or rather, you'll be able to participate in the grant making process or in the grant distribution process because you're providing your service. Let me repeat my point. Some of you, this will save an entrepreneur. Some of you actually have a good business. It's just that you're small. Your business is so sophisticated that it can literally be the anchor on which programs can be designed. I'll give you an example. You make shoes. You can go and meet a grant-making organization like UNICEF or whatever, or any of these guys that are, collecting money, and say that you guys want to come and use me. I will teach these kids how to make shoes, but you must write me into the thing, or at least give me my own cut. You make clean money. Some of you make drinks. Some of you make bakery products. Some of you do fashion, garment making. These are all ways that they are because they want to produce more youth. So if you come, and I'm telling you stuff that we have facilitated and we have seen for ourselves, that is one major way you can write yourself into the deal. Let me say something. I know my time is, oh my goodness, now time is against me. Please, you need to tell me how much time I have. I know this is worth everybody's time, right? Maybe you can unmute and tell me how much time do I have?
Based on our conversation, you said you want to be here with us till 5 p.m. We don't mind having you here till 7 p.m.
Okay, so, thank you.
I'm being greedy right now. I want to have you for as long as we can.
So does that mean you're enjoying my session? Let me focus on that question.
Yes,
okay, thank
please.
You
if anyone would like to talk, you can raise your hand. So I'll just allow you to talk.
I'll get to quick Q&A. Let me finish, then I'll do Q&A.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I wish so the first 15, 20 minutes, we can discount that because I was trying to set up and all that. So that's fine. But for the rest, I would carry on. By the way, there's something I did not do, and I apologize. I did not observe protocol to appreciate forgive me, my blood was hot. So to appreciate everyone, the SI Foundation, of course, the founders, Shola and Ibukwa Adeka. Thank you. If you're on the call or if you get to listen, please cut this clip and send it to them. And to say that this was brilliant. And I'm sure this idea, of course, kudos to the program manager too, which is the next one. But I'm sure all of you guys cooked this stuff up. And I think it's very timely, very, very, very deep, good stuff that you guys decided to do. Very practical. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I do not take it for granted. Even though it's Elon Musk, I still want to impress, like I said. LOL. Anyway, so and I crack jokes, so you just get my attention. Now, but I explained this dynamic. So I will shoot for another 20 minutes, 25 marks, and I'll close this. Now, access to financing credit, I've explained and I told you how to write yourself into programs. But let me make this point. The gift of a small business is that it is small. Its advantage is inherently in its size. A small business is small. I mean, if a pen falls within the chair, your hand as an adult, you may have to go and get your daughter or child or something. Please, can you pull and pull it out? That's what a small business can do. There are some of you now that are making ingredients or spices or whatever that the big boys cannot make. You know why they can't make it? They are too big. First and foremost, some of you are writing software that Microsoft cannot write. You heard me? Because the niche is so small. The niche is so small that they can't commit the kind of resource. I mean, their developer, for goodness sake, is collecting $200,000. Or let's say the least is collecting maybe $100K. I mean, you have boys in Yamba that you can backpack, gather here and there, and they can get this stuff done. So by their size, they can't even come down to that level. So you have the advantage. You will now build the software. You will test the market. You will experiment. You will now perfect it. Then you're not ready for them to acquire you. That's how some of you are supposed to cash out and exit, but you don't know. So the strategic thinking to know that my size is my advantage because I have the capability to do research to the point where I can determine a very niche use case. It may not be Microsoft that will buy you. It may be Computer Warehouse Group. It may be a bank. It may even be that you will become a component of a bigger product that somebody else is rolling out. But because you've invested the time to focus on it, suddenly it becomes a breakthrough idea for you. Why I'm saying this is that if you are truly a very good entrepreneur, and I'll say this, there are 3 things that are likely supposed to happen to you. Please, this is very important. If you're a very good entrepreneur, there are 3 things that should be happening to you. And this is a test. Number 1, you'll be making a lot of money. Yes. Number two, you should become extremely attractive for acquisition. Number three, you should become a component of a bigger picture of which people will use you, or companies or partnerships will come to you to add you to a plan. What do I mean? You built an educational software, educational tool. You go and sit down with a bank. Come and use me as a value-added service for your education companies. Now, this is not exact, but these are ideas. But your product has to be so good. It's now a value add to a bank to sell to. And you say, okay, what do we give you? Give me 50 million. Meanwhile, in your mind, you know you didn't spend up to 10 million to do that. Because, I mean, you're a developer yourself. They just give you 50 million, but you pocket 40 million. Your luck. Your luck. You can go and buy a house in Ibadan and knock yourself out. Okay, maybe a better. Or outskirts of Ibadan and knock yourself out. Three things. You're making a lot of money. You are becoming extremely attractive to be acquired within 2-3 years. You are an ingredient or a component of a bigger picture. What is your underlying factor? You're making money. Now, if these three is not your portion, then you stand a very high risk of waking up one day and realizing that you've been wasting your time. You should have just gotten a normal job and built a successful career and be fine. Because those guys are fine. Trust me, they are very fine. You want me to get to the point, go general manager in the bank, you have to get a house in Lekki Phase 1. You'll be okay, you retire well and be taking strolls and running around Lekki, wherever you want to live. You'll be okay. But you're not going to do entrepreneurship. After that, let me not talk. Bars. You're not devalued in naira. Then your entire valuation is halved. Do you know how many Nigerian businesses' valuation was eroded because of devaluation? That's you've worked hard for it. In other words, I was worth $1 million 3 years ago. But in naira, I kept my money in naira. Now, 3 years later, what am I worth? What is the value of $1 million? What is the value of that cash in naira? You know, it's almost half, or even less than half. So I think I've set someone free. Now, what is the implication of everything I'm saying? It's going to be reflected in capacity and competence. Because as an entrepreneur, people think training and development is mostly for business and for employees. In fact, entrepreneurs need more training. One of the things that the founder of SIA Foundation, Shola Deka, told me one time that really struck me and made me understand that he got something very powerful, was he said, I was talking about some entrepreneurs, he now made a point and he said, do you know that the entrepreneurs themselves are not educated? Like, entrepreneurs don't have capacity. Most of them is passion, is one accident, opportunity. It's not born out of, I've looked at this thing, I understand this thing, and I can do it. Very few people, one of the few people that I'll call a classic entrepreneur who came from a place of strength was Jeff Bezos. Yes, go and study. People underrate Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, honestly, you know the way the scripture says, these three abide: love, hope, and faith. The greatest of them is love. These three abide: Gates, Musk, and Bezos. The greatest of them is Bezos. Bezos is technically the greatest because Bill Gates was a genius and a nerd. Elon Musk is a crazy risk taker. But Bezos, I'm talking about the last three richest men, apart from the ones that come in and go out, the likes of Louis Vuitton owner and all that, or LMVH owner, sorry. I think it's the same thing, same person. Bezos was a successful financer, I think hedge fund manager or something, in a very successful firm. He left all that glory, carried him and his wife, who is now divorced, unfortunately, entered one car, packed all their load, and headed to Seattle. He said, I've seen the internet market at the rate at which it's growing. I can sell books. So based on that, from there, I'm going to sell everything. He knew he was going to sell everything else, but he was extremely focused on selling books, which is story for another entrepreneur. Focus. Cut the story short, he succeeded. Where am I going with this? As an entrepreneur, your education is as important as anything else. More important than funding, and more important than any of the problems you're dealing with now. I think I made my point. So, it all started from government grants, but I think I set someone free. 6, strategic partnerships and collaborations. This one, God help me. Time is not on my side. What am I going to do? I need to race. Strategic partnerships and collaborations with other entrepreneurs. Now, this one is hard in this country But the best way is, and a lot of suspicion. But I think maybe the Gen Zs are better off, or at least generation, the millennials. But peradventure, once you sign all your contracts and you're very open from the beginning of the conversation, there are a lot of entrepreneurs you can collaborate with. Some people you can serve as a complementary service to them. The ones that are threatened are the ones that you serve as a substitute. Now, other partnership opportunities is when you deal with aggregators. Somebody has built a platform. She has 500 people in her community. You have a service. You come and meet her and say, Madam, my target audience is your people. You are selling them coaching. Me, I'm selling them software. Let's introduce my software to them and I will share money with you. That for as long as any of them is on this service, I will pay you a percentage. Simple. Join industry associations. I don't know about millennials, the Gen Z, sorry, but I know that, no, I think Gen Zs are very like loners. I don't know if they like associations. They don't go for estate meetings. And you have to join associations. Go just join communities that are relevant to what you do and just sit in the room. Something may happen. That's all I'll tell you. Don't be a loner. Next slide. Innovation and agility. I think I've shared more thoughts on that. But what it simply means is, I mean, you have to continue to, the way I'm stretching myself very hard to stimulate your thinking because I need to switch it on. When I switch it on, you kind of will get the picture. And that's what I've tried with all my stories and my examples. Number 8, customer relationship management. You have to take care of what you have by going the extra mile. There's some customers that call me on Sunday afternoon. And I hear it, their compliance, and I hear it, the desperation in their voices. And I pick and I answer them. Sometimes I offer to help. You know what I'm doing? I'm solidifying the relationships. I took stock lately and I realized that there is literally no customer that I've poured myself into that has not come back to pay me back somehow. And you'll be, there's no customer that has used me that has not paid back. Somehow they pay back. I actually sat down 2 days ago and I took stock because my colleagues were looking at me with side eye, the way that I'm very interested, running around for some people. I thought about it and I looked and I started looking about all the things, the privileges I've enjoyed and how I'm leveraging those privileges. And I realized that because I go the extra mile for my customers or my clients, some of you don't understand how to manage customers. We have closed. You have closed. Are you like, I'm sorry, I don't want to use foul language. Like you have closed. Somebody tell you she's on her way to the airport. She wants to stop by, or he wants to stop by, or okay, sorry, I'm using the close in case my people are here. I'm talking generally. Even me, they say I should close by Friday. But sometimes I open my doors on Saturday. And I do this because, now, does that mean, so Emmanuel, where is work-life balance? Don't worry. Balance is coming soon. It will come to a time when we'll decide when we want to work. We'll take 6 months off and nobody can reach us. And heaven will not fall. You understand? We'll get to that point. But before you get to that point where you can make that kind of decision, you may not have closing time. So go the extra mile. Now, there are some people that are unbearing, I know. They're unreasonable. They're users. You get wisdom. I wish you wisdom with that. But I made my point. Serve as an advisor to your clients. Your clients are also facing a tough time. You have to advise them. Recommend people who know what they're doing. Go the extra, okay, you know what? I can connect with this guy, he can advise you. That's all. Of course, don't write yourself, don't go and swear any affidavit or do any guarantor. Just connect people. Number 9, risk management and contingency planning. I've talked about diversifying income streams, looking at what you offer and what else you can do. Some of you, you've done this thing for 10 years, that's your passion. You may have to explore other things. Now, one of the things you explore is when you move from labor to advisory. So that's labor-intensive tasks or services to advisory services. Advisory services is like money in the air. You have been in this thing for 12 years. You have experience. You are good enough to be a consultant. You can go to KPMG and tell them, KPMG, I've been doing flowers for 12 years. Or I've been doing logistics for 12 years. I want to serve as a subject matter expert. But the kind of ideas I'm giving people. Some people need to pay me for this. Like literally, some entrepreneurs need to send a tithe after this because I'm really giving it. You go and sit down with a big organization like KPMG, PwC, and say, listen, I am a logistics expert. I've done this for 15 years. I moved from garage, clinical. I'm an agriculture expert. I've done food production. When you guys have agreed projects, call me, write me to the deal. You run a farm, you run a poultry, but you have contacted all the people in advisory and told them that they should rely on you as a subject matter expert. So all you just sit down in the room is you just talk. You finish talking, they package 1 million naira for you and say, thank you very much. You know, they made like 50 million or 200 million. That's what they charge the client. But they package 2 million for you for doing nothing, for sitting down and just talking for 20 hours, cumulative over a period of 8 weeks, making connection, making calls. You chop clean out. That is possible. That's how to diversify income stream. So some of you need to move from your hard work to advice. Build reserves. That's straightforward. But let me give another perspective to that. You have to start investing in replacement of your equipment and machinery. Some of you, your financial calculation, you're not calculating replacements. Sinking fund. I'm saying that for somebody. Calculate that. Slide 12. Leverage government policies. I think I made that point. I'm not going to repeat myself. Community engagement. I'll only give you one more example. And social responsibility. I went for my estate meeting some weeks ago, and they were trying to figure out how to calculate the rate of the service charge. There was a bit of a problem, blah, blah, blah. So I volunteered. I forgot that I was a consultant. So I just, because I come for the meetings, sometimes I hope none of them is here because I'm going to spill some beans. But I was like, I share my ideas. My ideas sounded too radical. The first time I stayed in the meeting, I shared one radical idea. They didn't like it. The way I think, and I'm not bragging, forgive my choice of example, but I know my ideas are not normal. They're not normal because the problems that bedevil us are borderline diabolic. Like, how do you explain the fact that you're a large oil producer and you're still importing? Like, it beats common sense. So you need very radical recommendations. No, I'm serious. But back to my point. So, first recommendation, they didn't answer me. Second, they didn't answer me. No, they just said, who is this one again? Like, when you bring radical ideas, okay, that's how I felt. So finally, I got their attention. I said, okay, you know what? I'll build you guys. So the problem was this. What do we charge for service charge? No, our service charge is not covering our costs because they are defaulters, and there's not defaulters per se, not the tenants, maybe the landlord. Some stories around money is not enough, costs are rising. What do we do? So I say, you know what? And then electricity, diesel costs, because everything for us, the diesel has generator, street lights, and all the amenities that have to be serviced, including water. There's nothing like there's no light, so there's no water. There has to be water every time. So our diesel costs are. So you know what I told them? And they say solar is expensive. I say, you know what? Listen to my recommendation, and I want to teach you guys how to think. I will help you build a model and determine the costs per head. When I determine the cost per head, I will factor in the up and downs. Up and downs means when things go up, go down. But at the same time, I will securitize the service charge. So what do you mean? Because we're all in a community, an estate of 40 people, about 40 families, there are some of people in that estate that have money that can afford to pay their service charge 2 years up front. If you choose to pay your service charge, no, yes, well, that's the point. Here's what we'll do. When I calculate the costs, I will now tell you the implication of going to borrow money at an interest rate to replace your generator with solar and to transfer the savings from using less generator and less diesel to crash the service charge. Did I lose somebody? Let me repeat myself. And I'll teach you guys how to think. Problem solving. Let's go and borrow money, replace our gen with solar. Then we'll use less diesel. But because we use less diesel, that money we spend on diesel will transfer it to servicing our debts. Either the interest or the principal or both. But if it's not enough, now where do we borrow the money from? Not from a commercial bank, from the same estate people. When I said it, or more, 2-3 people, everyone, Ogafa, come on. People just reached out to me quietly. I was like, okay, I now felt good for a while. Okay, finally, I have their attention now. So I can promote my own agenda, like planting more trees and so on and so forth, because I feel like we need more trees. I'm saying this to get your attention and make you laugh if you are laughing. But where am I going with this? That calculation I did was how I got the attention. And eventually I may get business opportunities from these guys. But where am I going? I joined the community. I offered my service. I got recognized. Full stop. Some of you is your church. Now you need to go and shine like this. Well, let's be careful at church because there's no church now. If you just start shining out, they just make you pastor. And that's it. And before you know it, you're now useless to the world. You can now not add value to a dying world because you're now occupied from Monday to night. I'm sorry, that's a digression. But you know what I'm saying? It's just to say that sometimes we need you more in the dark place to shine more light than inside where there's light, and they don't need more light. That's for the discerning. But you get my point. My point is go and shine your light in your village community, in your estate. Just get more responsible. That's how some people became ministers or politicians. They wrote proposal, they saw the proposal, and they told them to come and resume in government. Number 12, the last point, training and capacity. This is my favorite. This is my area of expertise. In fact, Crypta will launch a product for entrepreneurs very soon. If you're interested, join the waiting list. But here's the point. Continuous learning. I will shed more light on that in a bit. Mentorship and advisory. You need a mentor. Now, here's the problem with mentor. You want to come and chase people like me to be your mentor. I'm sorry, I'm not available, except you're going to pay me. You say, yes. Hi, Emmanuel, are you serious? Yes, because how many people can I mentor? Everywhere I go, mentor. So you want to kill me? No, I can't be everywhere. So go and look for non-celebrity mentors. Who are non-celebrity mentors? They're everywhere you're coming. They're your estate, they're your neighbors, they're your church people, your mosque people. They are there, they're sound, but they don't speak as eloquent as Emmanuel Tarfa. Their tenses are not even together, but they know their onions. That your neighbor that you're despising can fix your accounting problems. Just make Eba and fantastic soup and go and visit him, or buy toys for his children. The guy will sit down happily. In fact, nobody has ever approached him and teach you and fix your financials for free of charge. We would have charged you like 2 million. That problem you're having with macroeconomics, go and meet somebody you know. So look for non-celebrity mentors in functional areas, different aspects to solve your problem. But please be nice to them. Carry something. Don't go empty-handed. Don't call them random. Like, demonstrate some gesture. That's another problem again. We need to tell this generation. Honor them. Show some honor. So you can, a man's gift will make room for him. Let's move to slide 13. Leveraging technology. Machines, sorry, start 14, I beg your pardon. Machines, digital tools, and AI. I gave an example of this, but I'll tie up my point. Machines. Some of you need to invest in upgrading the machines you're using. Even your laptop is slow. For those in the knowledge business, that's your most important. Change it now. Okay, the economy is hard. I understand. You manufacture something. Now, don't be in a hurry until you're proving your market. All right. Don't be in a hurry until you're proving your market. Digital tools, knowledge tools. I told you the apps you take, scan, it converts it to letters. Save you time. AI, all of the above. AI is still evolving, but it's clear. ChatGPT is the winner, at least for now. It's leading the race. ChatGPT can do a lot. Some of you need to pay that $20. Logos, pictures, it's there. Newsletters, articles, is there. You can literally sack your head of social media. I'm sorry, I'm saying that, and replace it with AI, but a premium version. Because the person there is not even using and paying you. And change the tones. There are it finishes it for you. Or you pay it for the person to do it. Because you're the one that understands your product. You're the one that understands it. So you can even articulate it better than the small girl in Unilag or UI that is not able to articulate what you're. Every time you're correcting, no, Martin, no, don't worry. $20, I'm telling you practical ways that makes it different. Number 2, to be honest with you, and I know I'm going to shoot myself. No, I'm not shooting. AI can give you preliminary advice that even me may not be able to give you. Where I come in is that I can translate it from advice to results. But in terms of what is the direction, there's too much wisdom there. And I will not be fair if I don't tell you that. It's not going to help me because you will find out. So I'm telling you that some of you may need to pay for premium ChatGPT and use that to get your way around. So that even when you're going to meet your mentor, you have already used AI to explain to you the fundamentals. So your mentor is not wasting time explaining things that you should have asked AI, for goodness sake. You're going there and you guys are having a conversation on your own business and how you can solve your own problem. So what? Slide 15. Insights and implication. Here are my conclusions. Slide 17. Some of you know me with this slide from wherever you have followed me. You have to start, slide 17. You have to start a PhD. You need a PhD in your own business. You don't need a consultant. If you're a small micro, you sincerely don't need a consultant because you can't even afford one. You yourself have to become a consultant. Please press the keys. There's some gist under it. Start a PhD-like pursuit in your industry or role. Become result-oriented. Smart goals. Move away from job description to results or impact. What are you doing? We are cleaning the warehouse. That's whose father's business is that? Why you clean? How does that help us? You're cleaning the warehouse. What does that mean? Does that increase the warehouse? Oh, so you spend your whole day supervising the cleaning of the warehouse. Something you would have called one unemployed guy in your community to say, come and supervise the cleaning. I want to. That's what some of you, that's what you do 50% of your time. You are doing things that look busy. Supervising the, okay, we're doing stock count. So what? Go and get a very honest, sincere person from some of these places where they're sincere and wherever they are. And trust them to do their job and factor in a loss match in your, and focus more on what is the result. My result is 100 million at the end of the year. I'm in meetings, I'm in clusters, I'm on platforms. I'm pushing 100 million, not supervising the clean warehouse, thinking that, oh, how are you, honey? What a crazy day. Daddy's working and he went to clean warehouse. No, daddy is lazy. I'm sorry. That is not serious. Number 3, in search of knowledge, be consistent with your few sources. What am I saying? Guys, here's now the problem. The knowledge economy is drowning our generation. There's too much wisdom. Some of you didn't even come for this seminar because you are tired. You go for too many seminars. You need to make your sources fewer. I wish I had more time to talk about that, but maybe you follow me online, you find out. For me, I recommend Arise Business Global Report. The Arise Global Business Report, 11 o'clock, business news. They bring a lot of experts. Those experts will help with your context. Pick 1, 2 sources, 2, maximum 3, and just be consistent. Don't read too many books. Read more of materials. Books are great, but if you can't read plenty, books are narrow. So if you're not a fast reader, you will spend a lot of time and you won't cover much. But you can pick a news article and read and you get the gist. You can sit down with a mentor or attend a conference and suck in the information. So you have to be discerning. I use my words carefully. Discerning in which sources. The key thing is being considered. By the time you binge this one, you binge that one, you come here for this conference, next year you don't come back. You will not end up with anything. Our parents had very few sources, but they were experts at what they do. Lastly, slide 18. These are the sources I recommend. I will share these slides with the trainers. They can share it with you. This is my recommendation. If you follow this religiously, or most of this, especially number 1, Arise, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. It will add up. Thank you very much for listening. And I'm sorry for taking